so I'll call the meeting to order. First thing, I want to thank everybody being here and help us celebrate this opening of this gorgeous building and being here with us today for our first meeting. We do have confirmation of the proper meeting notice. First order of business would be approval for the board meeting minutes of 10/22/25.
So moved, I'll make that motion.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next order is supposed to be the treasurer's report. Just to let you know, because the meeting is just slightly sooner than we normally have because of Thanksgiving, we do not have our complete financials in yet for our expenditures for October. So we do apologize, but that treasurer's report will be coming out very soon as we get that updated information on the expenditures from Leland. So that'll be coming forth soon. Manager's report.
Okay, so obviously the big focus has been the building, so I'm going to give everybody an update of where we're at. So I'll just take it building by building. With the social hall, obviously this is 99% done. The things that you may not notice are like the access control. Right now I only have the back circle and the front circle working for your key cards. The other doors, we're working on bringing them online to the server so that your key cards will open them. So what that means is when we leave here, we're going to lock the side entrances, and the only way you'll be able to get in and out is through the back circle or the front main entrance. So we want to go ahead and open up the social hall to any scheduled events that are already reserved. So if you have an event in this week or next week, you'll be able to use the building. Just make sure you use the front and rear entrances. You can exit through any of the doors, but you just won't be able to get back through them. So that's the social hall. With the activities building, which is the library, billiards room, there's still some more finishing touches we're putting on that. We've got some lighting things we're working out in the billiards room. There's access control. Two of the doors work. One of them doesn't. So for now, to get in and out of that building, you'll need to use the bocce court entrance. For that one, we want to hold off on opening it completely until the rooms get organized. Today, the library group started working to fill that up and organize their space. I'd like to meet with the billiards people and go through how we're going to organize that space and get the lighting resolved and make sure that everything's the way it's supposed to be. And then the card group, we need to get the covers on the tables and organize that space. So with that building, I'd like to hold off on anything regular activities in there until sometime next week, and we'll make sure to email everybody when we have that done. So if you are a member of the groups that use that space, you're welcome to go in there and help organize, but we're just no like regular card games or any of that stuff until everything's complete. And then the gym and the admin building, that one we are in the process of installing the mirror walls. There's some access control that they're working on for the doors. And the big thing is we're waiting on the gym equipment. So all of the aerobic gym equipment is going to be delivered sometime around the 26th. And that's when they'll start installing that, building it, and then we'll lay out the gym. Once that is complete, then we'll open up that building for use as well. And we'll be excited to let everybody know when the gym's open, which I'm hoping will be the week after Thanksgiving. We'll be able to get all that done. So, and then landscaping and perimeter work, we have concrete they'll start pouring tomorrow. And then as soon as they're done with removing the forms and the concrete is set, then we'll get the landscape work and the sod done. So all that should hopefully be done week after Thanksgiving, ideally. And then for other items, we finished all the camera installation in all the buildings and around the pool. I told you guys about the roof work that we had done. That's all been completed. They were able to.
What was that, Josh? I saw them up there.
Yeah, we had just like every couple of years I have them come up and inspect it, and they went through and there was some damage from one of the storms. Some of the caps had cracking and were loose. Some of the tiles had been moved. There was a couple cracked tiles. So they went through and redid all of that, so we're good to go on the roof. And then the stormwater leak on Meandering, we're still waiting on Seco to finish their engineering and permitting to move the lines. I asked them for regular updates and they say we're working on it, but they don't move very fast. So that's mainly it. And then I got you guys some reserve proposals today that we're gonna go through so we can start planning for next year. And then I've been meeting with ENC and a few other people for some proposals that I'm gonna bring to December so we can get a jump start on next year's work. That's all I got.
Okay, so now should be our president's report, but I'm gonna deviate a little bit. First of all, I want to recognize and thank Valerie D'Ambrosio, Vice President with Leland, for coming here and being here with us today. Valerie works very close with us and Josh and Matt and everybody. We appreciate everything she does. But I asked her here for a specific reason. One of the reasons was that recently wrote a letter to Valerie, which I want to read today. I am writing this letter of commendation on behalf of the Board of Directors to recognize and commend Josh for going above and beyond his duties during the total renovation of our building complex. Joshua took on the role of an on-site project manager, acting on our behalf with Schmidt Construction Company. He put in countless hours assuming this position. Joshua ensured that the day-to-day ran smoothly, not only with the project, but the management of Legacy of Leesburg. This was only possible due to his leadership style and his wonderful staff, who also step up to the plate during this time as well. Joshua was on the job site every day, meeting with Schmidt's contract manager, making sure the project was running smoothly. If a problem arose, he assessed the issue and brought it to the attention of the board panel so that a solution could be found and action could be taken to keep the project on track. During this process, there were many moving parts. He had to obtain proposals from various vendors who provided services which are not part of the bid and coordinated their work in and around that of our contractor. His time management was impeccable, which was no easy feat. He stayed in close contact with our treasurer to ensure proper tracking of the project expenditures. With that in mind, he also did his due diligence to ensure we obtained the best price for all the items which had to be ordered, such as furniture, gym equipment, down to the landscaping, just to name a few things. Joshua is truly an asset, not only to Legacy of Leesburg, but that of Leland Management as well. Again, we commend him for his excellence and thank him for a job well done.
And he still got most of his hair.
It's grayer.
You getting a raise?
Okay, so we have no unfinished business. So we'll move on to the reserve study proposal. So Josh, do you want to?
Yeah, we have three. Reserve Advisors is the one that we've used for the last couple studies. I thought it'd be a good idea to see what other people could offer. And so I reached out to a few vendors that other communities work with and got some proposals. And two of them are pretty close on price, and one of them is drastically cheaper. I don't really know, none of them have any glowing recommendations from other managers. I am comfortable with Reserve Advisors because we work with them regularly. I talked to Todd a little bit about it, and they provide a spreadsheet that we really like using, which helps us forecast all of our, we can make adjustments to the roads if we get something done or want to increase the price. That part's really nice. I know one of them offers software that you could basically do that with too, but I've never used it, so I'm not too familiar with it. But they're all level 1 reserve study with the exception of Reserve Advisors. And what level 1 means is they come out here, they look at everything, they create a complete list of all your reserve items and then assess values for each. And then create a big report for you. So level 2 with the site visit is what Reserve Advisors is doing, and that's because they're very familiar with the property. There's not a whole lot of work they need to do other than updating existing, and then add a few additional things, like since we've added the dock, they can add that on there and make that a reserve item. So it's really just updating everything with the site visit is what their proposal is for. So, any questions?
Does anybody have any questions? Dave?
I've looked at all three of them. You're right. Two of them, the reserve advisors and the reserve study and institute, are fairly close in cost. I'm a little bit suspect about the custom reserves outfit, given the fact that they're so much lower.
Yes.
That concerns me. Todd had asked a question, and I think you just kind of answered it, but he had asked a question in an email to you, that since we had just done all this renovation to the complex, will that move us into a level 1 status?
So based on the information I gave them, when I got the proposal, they said no, that wouldn't.
No.
I told them there was a few items that need to be added, and then we completely redid our buildings. And they said as long as you didn't, change everything, I mean, all you did was basically add square footage and update everything. So it's not gonna, it shouldn't modify the price at all.
Okay.
Because they've already done the whole, what is it, 60 something items that are on there. So now there's not a whole lot more work other than updating that stuff with new figures.
Right, so that hopefully would decrease the bottom line number that they would come up
Well,
with.
I think it was like 7, whatever they proposed, it will be that price.
Yep.
No, not the price of the study, but the results of the reserve study, I would think would be impacted by, hopefully impacted by what we've done to the complex, right?
Well, you'll have some ebb and flow. Like, for instance, there's a lot of the stuff that was on your reserve study that you took care of that you were planning on doing out of reserves. The offset of that could be that now your buildings go from around a $2 million replacement value to $4 million. So now the cost of all those goes up. So even though you're going to spread that out, you're still going to, my guess is it's probably going to.
Good point, you would
Yeah.
spread it out, yeah.
And then we have to see also that with the inflation of everything that we have on there, how that's affected. Because all your sports courts, your parking lots, your everything, storm drains, all of that had some inflation that we haven't adjusted since 2022. The only thing we've really adjusted are your roads. And you guys, as a board, manually increased that each year over the last 2 years because of the information you've had with doing the road work.
Thank you.
Yep.
Frank, any questions?
No questions. I think we should stay with who we've used, these reserve advisors. They've done a great job with us in the past. I think that should be rewarded. And because they already know us well, there'll be good continuity, and it just makes common sense on many levels. So that's my take.
Elise?
Which was the quote on the one you're talking about right now? Is this the 7,000 or the 5,000?
It's 72.
And they're
72.50.
out of Wisconsin or Minneapolis?
So that might be where their corporate offices are, but Reserve Advisors has several offices in Florida.
Okay.
And we work with the local branch.
And you have used them before?
Yeah, they did our last reserve study.
Okay.
So it's not like additional cost to have them out and hard for them to get out here.
Right.
And
that was one of my concerns, yeah.
And like I've had a email relationship with the local rep for the last couple of years, and it's actually somebody new recently, but when I email them, I get responses right away, or if I have questions, or hey, if I want them to make some adjustment to the form, they'll send it to me with a new one. So there's local offices that we deal with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chris?
Yeah, there's, on page 5 of the Reserve Advisors, they've got a little map that shows all the local places that they've worked with, which is very close to us. So yeah, Todd, that's what he recommended. I looked at everything. The price difference is not that much. I would suggest let's go with the people that got us here.
Yeah, no, I would concur, especially after speaking with Todd, and like Josh also said, we have a rapport with them, they're familiar with the property, and they've always produced a really good product for us, and a pretty accurate product where sets us right on track. So that being said, is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the reserve advisors proposal for $7,250. Now, the only question I have before I complete this motion is, there was some discussion with Todd over email on whether this should come out of the reserve study line in the budget, or whether it should,
Professional services.
or come out of professional services. So I want to make sure that I include that in my motion, where it should come from.
So you guys have taken it out of your reserves in the past, but I think it's best to use your professional services line.
Will that eat up our professional services line?
No, you're not gonna use, I think you still have the 10 grand budgeted for the year.
Okay.
Which this will be in January, and you've got another 10 grand budgeted for that year. So you should be.
So I'd like to make the motion that we accept the bid for $7,250 from Reserve Advisors for our new reserve study to be taken out of professional services.
All right, there's a motion.
I'll second.
There's a second. Any other further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
If I could just say one more thing in regards to this, in case some of our residents may not understand how important this is. And when you compare our reserves with other communities locally around here, we are very thankful and blessed. We are well run, and it's because of this kind of stuff that we pay for. Some of these other communities, they don't even know what they don't know. And Terry and I go to these meetings with other communities, and you know, there's some other communities around here that are really hurting, and they hardly even know that they're hurting. And then they get shocked by an unforeseen contingency and have to have a special assessment. And there's a lot of communities around here that have had a lot of special assessments that, to my knowledge, we have not once ever had one here. And there's one community not too far from here. They're 3 times the size of us, and they have less than half the money we have. So this kind of thing keeps us away from the possibility of special assessments. Thank you.
Well said, Frank.
Yeah.
Madam President, if I
Yes,
could.
sir.
I just want to reiterate a little bit that I had somebody ask me on Saturday, after looking at our package, they wanted to know why we were going to have a special assessment at this board meeting. And I just scratched my head and I said, how did somebody figure out that because of what we were doing with the reserve study, and like Frank just explained, I explained to this person who could tell this other person because they wouldn't give me this person's name. I said, explain to them, we never have had a special assessment. We don't plan on having a special assessment ever, because if we do, we know we'll be the first ones out of town on the red. But all your boards, whether you've liked them or not, have been very fiscally responsible and lived within their means, unlike a lot of other places. So we're very, very lucky that through the years, our boards have been very good and listened and taken your money and spent it wisely. So I just want people to understand that.
So next item is the resident address book. Matt.
So this year we spoke to our current publisher, who's Good Time Printing, who we've used in the past 2 years to do directories. We had someone else before, but they fell through and weren't doing them anymore. We have reached out to see if anyone else will do them. We can't find anyone. This year they've kind of asked communities to kick in some money. They're asking about $1.50 to $2 per directory we have printed. Our current directories right now indicate 2025, 2026. So just kind of seeing if it's something we want to do, or if maybe we want to wait a year and do the next year. We kind of budget for this, or maybe they find more advertising for this. So that's kind of where we're at with the.
Okay.
With the directories.
Chris, you want to start?
Sure. So in other words, for about $2,000 max, we could have a directory for every year, at least right now. don't know how the community feels about this one way or the other. It probably wouldn't hurt us if we waited a year. At the same time, $2,000 is not a backbreaker, I don't think. So it's basically what the community would like to see. Just my thoughts.
Elise?
Once again, I agree with Chris. My comments back to the board when we were discussing this, it's not that expensive to come up with a directory, even if we do it every 2 years. One of the things I brought up was the older residents of Legacy depend a lot on that directory. So they don't have to try to go through any small telephone books or try to see these things or try to use their computer. Don't forget, not everybody's got a computer in here still. I know. How can you believe that? But come on. So I agree. We can wait a year. But I don't want to see us do away with that. It's too important for the communication between each other here.
I kind of concur with what Elise said, and plus the fact too, we got to keep in mind there's always a constant turnover. So if we print it today, tomorrow it can be totally out of date. I know the year I moved in here, I think there was 149 homes that turned over. So it's a constantly evolving thing. I would be in favor of holding off a year.
So I'll be a little bit more of the more modern meaning here. Let me ask you a question there, Matt, because I know we get a lot of them printed. At this point in time, how many extra ones do you have sitting in a box somewhere?
We probably have, I would say, at least 250.
Oh my gosh, okay, great. So at a minimum, I would say do it every other year or whatever. Realtor.com right now shows that we have 30 houses for sale. So we are getting a significant turnover. When we pay for these directories, they're grossly outdated by the time they're printed. And I hardly ever use it or look at it. It's, you know, I have every one since I moved here 8 years ago. And I just don't think it's needed. I mean, on our website, you can see we have the resident directory, and that's right up to date, or it should be. I think it should be part of the orientation package when a new resident moves in here, that they give the information so we could import that into our, you know, online directory. But it's going to come to the point sometimes where we, you know, all 999 houses are paying a little bit to satisfy the half a dozen Luddites that don't have a computer, and to a point where that's going to get to be not right. And you know, yeah, I know it's a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here. We try to make good decisions here. We don't, you know, we don't do that 100%, but we try hard. But it's all these, like the Bible says, it's the little foxes that spoil the vine. And you spend a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, and then all of a sudden you have your HOA go up, you know, a little bit more. And that's how it happens. So I would say at a minimum, we do this every 2 or 3 years if needed, with the thinking that there'll probably be a point where they totally go away. And because it's a dinosaur. I mean, part of me says, thank God they never put a telephone booth here in Legacy, because there'd be people fighting to keep it here. So I would be the guy that votes no. So, sorry.
Dave?
I tend to agree with Chris and Elise and Terry that I think a paper directory is something that we should continue with. I do think we could forego one each year and maybe skip a year and go every other year. I have another thought that I thought of while Frank was speaking, and that was we could vote today to put it off for a year, and at the same time we could ask any resident that was interested in having a directory in the future, come in the office and write a check for $5 or $2 or whatever, if they choose to. I'd be willing to do that. It wouldn't bother me in the least to go and give them a check for $10 to go towards directories, you know, but that's me. But I do think that we could forego a year and plan to have one a year from now.
Not to interrupt, but I just got a text from somebody saying that there is no sound for channel 17 for all the people that are watching outside here.
Okay.
We're still working out the kinks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Give
there's
us a
gonna be
little
still
bit
some
of
little
grace.
kinks here and
Yeah.
there, and we've
Yeah.
So
we
asked for
expected
your
those.
patience.
Yeah.
What I say we do is we will revisit this around the same time next year
Yes.
and have an accurate price and numbers and all that stuff for you guys, basically a proposal, and we can work on it next year.
Yeah, and I'm one of those touchy-feely people, okay? I do have a computer and whatever, but there's nothing for me especially to grab that and look and hurry up and go to it really quick, and sometimes, yeah. So I'm kind of like that in-between person.
Well, the next 250 residents get a free directory because we have them.
Yeah.
Madam President, could I redirect about Frank? Just so you know, Frank, I have directories from 4 times ago that I've marked and yellowed those people that I know, and I use those all the time today still. So, yeah, I'm one of those folks.
Chris, I'm with you on that. Yeah.
Okay, moving along. I know that we have some people who signed up. The next item is removal of the old stairway by Clock Tower Pond. And we have some people that want to.
Yeah, do you want me to give you guys kind of a rundown
I
of
would
what?
love for you
All
to
right,
do
basically, we're talking about not the new dock area that we built. We're talking about the wooden steps that go down the slope, and that's currently what they're using for to launch and retrieve their boats. So when I say removal, that would be basically restoring that shoreline to the way it's supposed to be with the right slope, and then probably putting some plants along that entryway. So we have 3 people that would like to speak. Jerry Wilkert first.
Start. My name is Jerry Wilkert, Commodore Jerry Wilkert. So, you want to rip out what's taken several years for us to perfect. I get it. Okay, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I understand. We wish there was some way that maybe we could make that work. There'd be some discussion. This is number 1 point I'm making. That we could create a swale in there so the bank down to isn't so steep. Number 2, the new pier makes it difficult for us to launch our boat in an easy manner. Some possible solutions that we've kicked around, I know we met earlier, would be launching from the side of one of those steps. Yes, that means removing the rail, putting up some posts for stability, and launch a boat that way. That's one possible solution that might be the best. We have done some thinking and working around, made a few prototypes that we actually tested. The best one was yesterday. Does not alter the steps in any way, but you really have to see it to know what I'm talking about. The latest one is a little extended platform, so it makes it easier for you to launch. So we're willing to kind of work with that, although there are issues that need to be overcome. Having said that, we're concerned about being that it's a pier, let's face it, it's a pier, not a dock. Sailboats can, when there's gusty winds, or there have been times when batteries in the boat go dead and go lost. The wind will push them ashore, or could push them under that pier, and that could spell a disaster to snap off masts, do damage to these boats. And they're, like, in some ways, a finely tuned instrument. Rip a mast off and you're looking at $300. We're thinking that maybe if there's some kind of wire fencing around there, or batten boards or something in some areas that are only on the pond, not completely enclosing the area underneath. And I think Carl has some things to speak about too. So does Gary. There's some issues with the key system we're using. All these things are points that we'd like to have discussion on before the current system is just ripped out. 3 minutes. Thank you.
Carl, you're up.
Yes, Carl Apple, Sage Leaf. I've been here 14, going on 15 years. We've been sailing boats that long. Where we launched the boats at this particular time has been used the same way all the time. We ask if the steps could be used until we get this position straightened out on the pier itself. The steps being too narrow to launch a 48-inch, 16-pound boat. The problem is that they have a 10-inch draft, which means 10 inches from the boat, waterline down, is exposed to whatever is underneath it. So you have a step that's 11 inches deep, 11 inches wide, 6 inches deep with an 8-inch draft, 9-inch draft. You have to go out beyond the first step to the second step. So if you're standing in water, you have to go out one more step to be able to reach and launch that boat. It also has to be launched, excuse me, on an angle because, like I said, the boats are 46 inches long. The width of the stairway is 36, so the boat has to be launched diagonally. Also, retrieving the boat is the same problem. You have wind direction where we're subject to which way the wind blows and how the boat performs. In doing so, the wind is blowing very hard in one direction. Trying to retrieve that boat in a 36-inch opening could be difficult, not only for the person that's trying to do it, but for the boat itself, in that you could run the boat into the dock and create damage. So we're just looking for a way to get past that. If we can find a way, and like Jerry said, we're working on different things that might work in that area. But until that happens, we just ask if you could hold off on taking the steps out until we can get this rectified. Hopefully sooner than later, of course. And I know your issue is to get it out because of safety, talking about the steps. I understand that fully. But if we can take measures as a club to mitigate the danger of having somebody going down these steps, we just hope that you would concur and allow us to do that for the short time, hopefully. Thank you.
Gary?
Gary Smize, you can just call me Smize. I am speaking for myself and no one else, no group or whatever. I have stability issues. I can use those steps. I go down there with my boat and I put it in the water and I'm able to retrieve it out of the water. Is it easy? No. Could it be improved? Absolutely, just like what the gentleman said. And what was already said. You walk down those, issue number one, before anything else, those stair treads, at the time, it was a bad idea, it is a bad idea now, and it will be a bad idea in the future. Those stair treads are dangerous and terrible. They need to be replaced with a metal, aluminum, I presume, they make them out of several different substances, the grading material, because right now you have water that goes up and down, right? And you got algae in that water. That algae settles on them steps. And let's also talk about bird guano. It makes them extremely slippery. You couldn't be an Olympic gymnast and stand on those things. So those treads have to be changed. Okay, and that would eliminate the slipperiness problem. What they described, which is absolutely true. Imagine trying to carry with one hand on a rail, going down steps, because you have to reach so far, trying to deposit a 16-pound bowling, just like this, try to put down a bowling ball accurately. The thing I built was what somebody else, one of the other gentlemen had an idea that I ran with. I made a U-shaped device out of PVC pipe, pool noodles, and ties, and on sticks. I can put it in, I can get my boat in, I can launch it, and I can sail the boat back in, but I still have to wrestle with it. Okay? What they just mentioned, and there's been several ideas proposed, you're only talking about a 36-inch space that if you could walk out and get to the edge of where the rails are, you could launch the boat. It'd be very simple. It could be made so that it could be put on and taken off, I think. This is something that would have to be explored. But you're not talking a lot of money. Those stair treads, I think you can get them on Amazon for under $50 or something. It's it's not a big deal. And it's at least the bottom 4 or 5 treads really should be replaced, if not all of them. Because of the slipperiness. Last Saturday, we were out there monkeying around talking about this stuff, and I went down and I stepped on that. The last step was only about that high out of the water. I defy anybody to try to stand on that thing. So, and we had the discussion before that thing was built that needed to be done. It wasn't, but now it's something that I really feel should be addressed. That's it. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And if you recall, Gary, we put that in the quote, and we said that's exactly what we wanted, just like on a tailboard of a fire truck, right. And very similar to what the temporary ramp is for the temporary cam office right now. Right. And they came back to us saying that they couldn't do it, and it would be like $30,000 or $20,000 for those.
Well, somebody was lying, Frank.
I know. It's frustrating because that's exactly what we wanted, and then we were denied it after the fact. So.
And take the platform, 36 inches by, let's say 36 inches by 48, 36, whatever the dimensions are, out of one of those things, and we could walk right out to the edge of the water, dip our boat in, no problem. And it could be removable, so that, whatever. But that's what they're asking for, and that's what I.
Okay, move on, Chris?
Sure, I'll go first. First question, this is about the original steps. Who got permission to put those in?
Nobody.
Okay, that's number one question.
You knew the answer.
Number two, safety is the issue. That's why you came to us and said, we need something else. We're afraid somebody's going to go in. 3, I went out there and looked. It's a retention pond we're utilizing, and that shoreline right below those steps. Now you've got the same issue that you have if you go over to the new dock. You're walking in mud, and you have destroyed the shoreline in that area. Once again, it's a retention pond. We need to fix that. We have to answer up to St. John's on that. The other thing. Now, we talk about the new steps, they're slippery. Yep, I agree. I agree with you. I think we got to use the metal treads. That makes sense. But something else that works, because I tried this. That's the first thing I noticed when I stepped down in the water. Man, those steps are slippery. They're slimy and they're slippery. So how do I fix that? Oh, how about a stiff bristle brush? And I sweep the steps before I step on them, and guess what happens? They're not slimy and slippery anymore. I know I went over and tried that when that was brand new, because that was the first thing that stuck in my mind is I step on this and boom, there we go. And I agree, we need metal treads on there. And the enclosure that you just mentioned, that does make sense. That would probably be an easy fix to keep the sailboats from going underneath. But those steps that never were in there to begin with, never had permission, never was said, yes, you can do this. We need to get rid of those before somebody, and the same thing that you all brought up a year ago or a year and a half ago, it's a safety issue. And people are still using those. If we need to do some other things to the new dock, okay, let's do them. If you need to come up with some new things like Gary has, then you're going to have to come up with some new things. But we can't keep using the old steps and have somebody slip and fall and hurt themselves, because then we all pay for that when we get sued. So that's why those original steps need to go away. And that's my 2 cents.
Elise?
Okay, I agree with those steps. Looking at them this morning, they scare me. If there's the littlest bit of moisture out there early morning and whatnot, somebody's going to go down that hill, and if they hit those steps, something's going to get broken. Now, we don't all want to be liable for this. So they built a dock. So let's start addressing some of the issues on that dock. To stop the boats from going underneath and getting away from them, let's just use some blockade, some chicken wire, something. It doesn't have to look bad. It can be maintained. We do need something on those lower steps because it does get slimy and slippery. But let's address the issues of the dock, or whatever you want to call it, dock, launch, whatever. There's things that can be done. So all I would ask would be for this to be postponed until next month, this decision and vote, and to let the boat club meet together and come up with the different ideas for what can be done with that dock, and to present it to any board members and to the CAM with their suggestions. Chris is right. If we get sued on this, it's going to be big bucks because they see big dollar signs in communities and whatnot. So we have to prevent that. Nobody wants an assessment. Well, we don't want to get sued because then you will have an assessment. But if we go and work on the dock itself, I'm sure we can better that to where it can be used. That's it.
I was with Elise earlier today. We went out there and took a look at and met with the gentleman with the club. And I do agree with Chris. I strongly believe we need to remove the old stairs, and because of the fact that it definitely is a safety hazard. As Elise mentioned, you have a steep slope, and what they've been doing to try to navigate that is to come down off of the side. But it's slippery, it's wet, and somebody can slip on that and definitely get hurt. I think what we can do is listen to their concerns and try to see what kind of ideas that we have that we can implement that'll make it a little bit easier. I know I spoke with Josh and we were talking about as far as chicken wire and this, that, and the other. We got to remember there's an ebb and a flow there, and we have to also figure what is allowed and what's not allowed, because as Chris said, we do answer to St. John's. And there are certain things we can or cannot do. I'm not saying we can't do that. I'm just saying we need to make sure we've crossed our T's and dotted our I's with everything, regardless of what we do. There's also, and I think Josh could elaborate on more, and even instead of the metal stripping, there's also things that can be applied to the steps.
Yeah, we can apply basically like a grit material that's glued down to the steps, like a non-skid strips, basically. They're common on boats. They're made for water applications like that. There might still be some moss or something that grows on it, and it might need to be cleaned every once in a while. But same thing with the metal. You're going to have to clean that too, because that will get sunk. So we can try that right away and see if that helps out with it.
Okay. Frank?
So true compromise is when no one's 100% happy, but we made progress. And so the first thing I'd like to say is thank you for coming and sharing your viewpoint on that with us. And I just want to make sure we're all on the same team, going the same way, that I want that dock more user-friendly for the boat club. Those steps, because it's supposed to be locked, and I heard somebody say something about there's a key issue. If there is, we need to address that, because those steps are supposed to be only for the boat club. You know, no one else should be going down there. No resident should be going down there. And that's why we have that gate, and that's why that gate is supposed to be locked all the time unless you guys are there. So if that's happening, wonderful. If it's not happening, or something has to happen to make it happen, then we should do that. If you guys commit to aggressively working on solutions to make it safe and easy to use for everybody, for all of you guys, whether it be a hoist system that clamps onto the railing or something, I have to believe there's some engineering that can be invented to make everybody happy, and that's what we want. I don't want an adversarial relationship between the board and the club. I want us to be working together. My feeling about the steps that probably need to be removed is that I'm comfortable with giving a little bit of grace to that and not having them ripped out tomorrow, but let's make a concerted, intense effort to come up with making the dock more usable and viable so we can take out those other steps and not spoil anybody's fun, but have everybody more safe and less liability. And that's my feeling. Nothing happens too fast sometimes, so, you know, I'd be willing to give those, you know, illegal steps, you know, a couple of more months while we aggressively work on this solution, with the intent of, within the next couple of months, having the solution and having all this go away.
Dave?
Here's my concern. It's obvious that we are aware, as a board, that there is an issue with those existing entrance into that retention pond. And as Chris put it so well, if someone were to get hurt, or if someone were to fall in head first and drown, God help us, I do not want to have that on my conscience. Believe me, I do not. I thought we were doing the right thing as a board by putting in that dock, that pier, whatever you want to call it, to support the folks who run boats in that retention pond. I'm sitting here and I'm listening to the people with the boats, and God knows I love those folks. They're all good people. And it's good, healthy use of their time and effort. But I'm afraid if we allow this to continue, even for another month, that we're putting ourselves at grave risk. And I'm not sure I'm ready to do that. Mm-hmm. But I am, as others have said here on the board, that how quickly can we get a few of the members that can speak for that group of people to get with to get with Josh and come up with some suggestive ways to fix that existing dock, so that we can move forward with eliminating that problem that we have, that risk that we have.
So they have, through this whole process, given me and you guys ways to improve what we built. So far, none of those have been considered as safe. So
none of them are safe.
Well, we talked about a floating dock or a platform that they could use to walk down and put them in the water. You guys didn't want to do that. You wanted steps. We talked about building the steps with one rail and leaving the other side open. You didn't think that was a good idea either. So those are two of the main ones. Now, they did bring up some things today that maybe we can look at. You know, the chicken wire, or, blocking the pier, that was a new one. I hadn't heard that one yet. I do get that we can make the steps a little bit less slippery. We can definitely do that. And they told me today the handrail's loose. I can fix that as well. But, I think them getting with me isn't necessarily going to do anything. I think you guys got to meet with them and figure out what your tolerance for risk is with that.
Well, it's
situation.
not my tolerance for risk. I think it's the community's tolerance for risk.
You being the representative of the community. I'm not saying you.
No, right. Yeah.
That's really what needs to happen, because I think all of their ideas will work, but it's whether you're willing to allow that.
I get where you were coming from, and that was my concern as far as liability. We have knowledge and had knowledge that there's a possible risk. So God forbid if someone does fall, something happens, there's no excuse that, we're going to put it off and wait. We're going to put off and wait. Once it happens, that it's too late. The other thing is that those steps are accessible not just to them. It's in the wide open. The whole reason behind the key and having the key for the dock and the set of stairs was so one person has it. So to let you know, the issue with the key is not about it being given out to anyone else or whatever. You have one individual who's the Commodore who has the key. There's a spare key in with the cam. And when they were talking today, not so much of an issue, but the issue is that let's say somebody from the club wants to go out and use it. The Commodore isn't available. He's out of town. Well, they can't get in to get it from the cam because it's after hours or it's the weekend. So that was the only thing they kind of discussed a little, and that's something we can look at, in regards to that. But that's a minor thing. We still have the safety and we still have the control of people being able to access the new stairs on the dock. And as Josh said, one of the ideas they gave us a drawing today, and it basically was that you would remove the railing on one side. Yeah, there's multiple copies, so sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, so one of the suggestions they came up with, and there again, I think it goes back to our insurance company and what our liability would be if we looked at removing one of the railings, and this would be to the outer side, am I correct, on the side of the pond. So that was one of their suggestions. I think it's important that definitely we want to move forward. We want to make it accessible to where they can launch and do it safely. I just think that if we looked at anything like this, because we spent a lot of money to put the rail down the side and everything else we had, that we look at this and find out if our insurance company is good with that.
I don't think they're going to have the issue. The county that permitted the dock might have the issue.
Well, that was the second thing I was going to come up with, was the county.
And then it sounds shallow, but kind of got to consider aesthetics, considering that
Right,
is viewable from your
Yeah.
entryway.
exactly.
So chicken wire and no railing might
Right, would,
look
yeah.
a little bit country.
Yeah, it wouldn't look good, especially when you spent that money to put it in, and now it looks like, I don't know what.
Yeah, you wouldn't need chicken wire. You could use a fencing that's, like this. It's got an opening like this. It's not chicken wire. You're right. If you put chicken wire, then nobody would see it because it's so far away.
But there's already existing railings that you don't see right underneath the handrail for the side.
Yeah, I think they're talking about under the pier
Yeah, well, no, oh, okay.
for the mast getting clipped.
Yeah.
Right, or putting boards across, but I think we have two issues with looking at considering something like this. One is the insurance, and like Josh said, also the county. The county would, poor Josh and everybody else we were back and forth with the county. I didn't think we were ever getting the dang permits.
Yeah.
I signed paperwork, and then 2 days before we're supposed to start, we need more signatures for something else. So we do have to answer to them. So.
Yeah, and again, it all comes down to your tolerance for risk. If you want to say, okay, we're going to put a gate there so the rest of the community doesn't use that, and you want to open it up to however they need to launch their boats, That's the easy way to do it. I mean, honestly, the county's probably not gonna come out and say, hey, you know, you guys, that's different than how you built it. You've already got your permits final. They're not gonna necessarily care.
Right.
But it's, do you want to have the stairs open in a platform then go directly down to the water like that or not?
Right.
That's,
Some of the things that we could do, and it wouldn't be controversial or anything, is to, you know, get a few of the rolls of that wide 3M, you know, gridded adhesive, you know, that is used on stairs all over. And we could try that. That might mitigate some of the slippery, you know, problem there. And, you know, using a hoist, like a mechanical hoist or whatever, to put the boats in, if that's a viable option, that solves a lot of problems. I get everything what Dave's saying, and that's why we pushed to have the dock built, was because of the potential risk. That being said, those steps have been there for 15 years or so, or at least 10, and no board cared about it one bit. And now all of a sudden, like, you know, it's like having a fire hazard in your house, and all of a sudden you didn't do anything about it for years and years, and all of a sudden you're afraid that tonight's the night that the house is going to burn down. Well, statistically that is pretty low. I'm just saying, give them a little bit of grace. We work on this thing, get it solved, and with the intent that those steps have to come out as soon as they can, and still give them some kind of safe way to launch the boats, you know.
is there a motion there, Frank?
Well, Madam President,
We
if I
need to
may.
get to the point here.
Chris?
Yeah. Elise has said she would like to get with the people, and by our next board meeting on the 17th of December, and I'd like this taken care of yesterday, but it's like Frank said, it has been out there for a few years, and gentlemen, you came to us because you were worried about it being a safety issue. I think if we could wait just 1 month and have Elise work with these people and say, okay, let's come up with some really good viable, I like this idea. You know, we always plan. This is how we think it's gonna work. And sometimes after we do it, it's like, yeah, it wasn't quite like we thought. So let's make it better. Let's make it work for you. Let's make it work for other people. I've also seen several people who are out fishing from that dock. So I've seen that happen too, and I'm glad to see that people out using the dock besides just the boat guys. So that might be a suggestion that works for everybody. I know we all want to take care of it because once again, God forbid that anybody fall in, but, and you guys aren't getting any younger or more twinkle toes, let me tell you.
Speak for yourself, will you?
Yeah. But we want to make it safe. We want to make it correct. And if Elise can work with you guys and come up with some really good ideas, that's my recommendation at least.
Don't take it more than a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think they've come up with some different ideas and what have you. I think we should bring it back before the board in December. And Elise, it'd be great if you can get with them, but I also think we need to have Josh involved because ultimately you can come up with all kind of ideas, but he met with the county, he knows everything too, and then with whatever ideas that come up, he can also possibly double check and make sure with regards to the insurance and with the county. Because if we can come up with some great ideas and go, oh God, it'll still look aesthetically nice because we need to make sure, definitely that, and it'll work, and then we go to the county, the insurance company, and they go, oh God, no. Then everybody has spun their wheels for no reason again. So I guess would the pleasure of the board be that we table it till next meeting?
I can live with that.
Okay, Elise, Frank?
Yes.
Dave?
I guess.
Okay. All right, so we will table this till next meeting. Gentlemen, we would ask that you make arrangements to get with Elise and coordinate with Josh so we can see what possible ideas we can come up with and hopefully come up with something. But I hope you also know after we met with you earlier today, we respect and like what you guys do. We appreciate what you all do, but it's also for us a risk and safety factor, like Dave said, because if something happens, this whole community is paying for that. All right, I thank you. Is there one other thing? Let's see, we have open forum coming up, correct? After the meeting? Okay, so, all right, so if there's no other business, if we can go ahead and have a motion to adjourn, and then we'll get ready for open forum.
I make a motion, we adjourn?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, thank you.